how I built my business from scratch. Hi, I'm Lucy Griffiths, and I've been in business since 2017, so it's a good few years now, and I've definitely learned quite a lot along the way. And I'm not a natural entrepreneur. Like I was listening to this podcast the other day, and it was kind of two guys who are entrepreneurs, really successful entrepreneurs. And I listened to their conversation and it sounded completely alien. And while I can relate to some of the things they talked about, it made me just go, oh my God, I must really suck. But I think for women, and if you are in the sort of phase of being in the raising children, childcare juggle, but also going through perimenopause or menopause, then actually we are so different to men as entrepreneurs. Like, we don't necessarily have that built-in like confidence. Like, obviously there are some women who do, and like, amazing, all credit to you. But there's a huge chunk of us are quieter and more introverted and struggle to have that same bravado and confidence and do things in the same way. Like they were talking about, just hold a dinner party and invite 10 of the most influential people in your field to this dinner party. Like, I would never in my wildest dreams do that, because that's not who I am and that's not how I work. But I have managed, despite my limitations, despite my fears, managed to build a successful business. So if you are not of the like, let's host a dinner party for 10 people who you don't know variety, and you're more of the kind of shy, quiet, more introverted, then perhaps this is of interest to you. I'm not going to suggest hosting a dinner party. I couldn't think of anything worse. Like, I'll have a dinner party for my friends, don't get me wrong, but I'm not doing one with just a bunch of entrepreneurs that I don't know. And, for me, I always struggled with networking events and I would just want to hide in the toilet, because just making small talk with a bunch of people you don't know is, for me, really difficult. And like, I would make conversation and I'd be talking to people, but I would be feeling like I was giving more energy than I was receiving. And it was like, this is not a two-way street. I'm kind of stuck with this person's energy. And, occasionally I come away and go, I met this person and I loved the person and it was fantastic. But otherwise, I just realized that going to networking events for what I do is actually, like, it's fun and it's nice to meet new people, but it didn't actually bring me any more business in what I do, because I realized that if I were to put myself out there in the online world, I have just much more impact. I reach more people. My videos reach thousands of people. And so while I might go to a networking event and I might enjoy the experience and going to see them, and I feel energized by meeting people, afterwards then I'm really drained that day, I'm drained the next day, and actually I might have possibly converted one person. So I used to go to these BNI breakfast meetings, like this is 20 years ago when I was editing a business magazine, and I would go because I was being paid to go, and that was all fine. But now as an entrepreneur, I can choose how I spend my time, and I choose to spend my time wisely. So if you don't enjoy networking, you don't have to go. You can build a following, you can build connections in the online world. Okay, so now we're going to talk online world. So I think the most important lesson when it has come to really scaling my business has been to look at, where is the best place right now? Like a few years ago, it was Facebook, and you could do really, really well on Facebook. But I don't think Facebook is the place to be anymore. I think that there are certainly people who are still doing really well on Facebook, but most people need to be looking elsewhere. So look at the trends, look at where people are. And, for me, a few years ago, I moved to LinkedIn. So I put my energy, my enthusiasm, my passion into LinkedIn. And it's paid off. I really enjoy being on the platform. I love the connections. I love the friendships I've made. And also I get clients from the platform. I'm here talking to you on YouTube, and I really love YouTube. I really love creating content. And so you choose where you want to be. You might want to be on TikTok. You might want to be on Instagram. You go where you want to be, but go all in. And don't feel like you have to be everywhere. Don't feel guilty in the same way you don't need to feel guilty about being at a networking event or not being there. The same with social media. You do you and what works for you. So if you decide you love LinkedIn, then go all in on LinkedIn, but go big, go deep, rather than try and go wide and appeal to so many people. And please, I beg you, don't do those insipid Canva kind of creations on, in images on Instagram that we used to do 5-7 years ago, because they don't work anymore. Like, there are other ways to make money. There are other ways to build connection, to really generate an income. Think about Reels. Think about other ways where video can work for you. LinkedIn is about to launch a video kind of like TikTok, Instagram Reels service. Is that the right place for you? Go with where is working for you. One of the biggest things that I did is creating digital products and courses. So when I built my membership, when I created my courses, I really found that that was the best way for me to build something that was passive, that meant that I could focus on the audience, focus on building the audience, but I was still selling something. So my first product was called Confident on Camera. And it was a course that I sold for $19 about being confident on camera, surprisingly enough. And I sold over 50,000 courses. And the reason that happened is because people, they were looking for that quick win. They were looking for something to help them to get on video. And so it really worked out. So, that eased a pain point. That solved a problem that people had, that they were scared to be on video. I think, fast forward 5 years now, the pandemic, everything else, people are no longer having the same fears and doubts and limitations. So I had to evolve, and I evolved my business. But that was a great starting point for me at that time. So what is the pain point that you can create for and solve for your ideal client? So look at their problem. What solution can you offer? That solution can be your digital course. And then once you've got your digital course, once you've got your membership, then you can be selling them into it on a regular basis. And you can be really selling on, a continual basis, that same product. And it means that you're not continually creating something. You're not in the hamster wheel of like, oh, let's create something new. Which leads me on to my very next point, which is go big and go deep in the one thing or two things. You can have a few products, but you don't need to keep creating something new all the time. You don't need to keep creating a new sales page or a new emails. Like, just focus in on one thing and do that. Get the emails right, get the sales page right, get it all done. Then you can move to something else. Rather than trying to do everything at the same time, just go deep in one thing for just, on that, get that done. Then you can move to something else. And it will give you so much more, just like feeling more in control of your business again, rather than feeling overwhelmed and like, ah. And while we're in this phase of, which, we can feel overwhelmed. We can feel like, oh, I need to outsource this thing. And a few years ago, I believed the hype of like, oh, you need to outsource this and do this. And, you have to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to outsource. I think that's utter nonsense. I think the more that you can do yourself, the better. But you need to simplify. So outsource a particular task, get it done, but then you just focus on audience building, and you can do that yourself or hire experts to help you with that particular task. So outsourcing is one of those things where a few years ago, everyone was like, you've got to outsource everything. To be successful, you need to outsource. You need a team to do this in order to be 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever it may be. And for me, I definitely went down that route. But what I've done is actually on this journey, when I separated from my husband, he worked in the business, and we created this sort of ridiculousness of middle management where he managed people in the team, and there was me, and then people in the team, and him, and people in the team. And so it sort of created this separation, and I would find myself going in and people would be commenting on posts and I'd be rewriting the comments, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So actually what I started doing is I wanted to comment. I wanted to build relationships with people. So I took back some of those tasks, because actually I wanted to be able to build connection, build community. So it's very much about actually me commenting again, me creating content. And rather than outsourcing that content, it's about me doing that. And so my team has really shrunk. And I deliberately did that. And I much, much prefer it. And I hated managing people. I loathed it. And so that's been one of the great things, that I don't have to do that. I do it in a way where I just send WhatsApp notes and say, do you mind doing this thing? They do it, it gets done. And it's so much simpler and so much easier. So I would really say, don't be in a rush to go in and outsource and do all the things. You don't need to, particularly if you're a solopreneur. You don't need to be in that massive hurry to get going in that way. You can start slowly, build that side hustle, build that thing on the side, and then when you start getting momentum, then you can look to hire somebody or just outsource a particular task. For me personally, I will have someone to do some Canva graphics. I will have someone doing some of my admin, whether it's setting up Zoom meetings or replying to customer service emails. And then I'll have people doing a bit of, let's say, video editing or my accounting. But those are particular tasks and they're very end focused. So I will be like, can you do this task? You do this thing and it's finished, job done. Rather than it being, at one time I had hires of people who were on the payroll every single month and I was paying them, this is what you do. And actually, I wasn't managing them properly. It was my responsibility to manage them properly, and I didn't enjoy that, and I wasn't really communicating what I needed them to do, what was the best way to work, how could we grow the team, how could we grow the business, and I wasn't communicating that, and so it didn't work for them, and it certainly didn't work for me or the business. So if you are going to hire, make sure you're really clear in what you want them to do, how you communicate with them, and what are those goals? How are they going to grow the revenue in the business? What profit goals have they got? What audience goals have they got? So that they are accountable and they know that if they don't achieve XYZ goal, then Houston, we have a problem. And I will hold my hands up and say, I wasn't doing that because that's not what I enjoy doing. So know your strengths and know what works in your business and what works in a way that is going to actually keep people on track and focused and delivering what your objectives are, what the business objectives are. Otherwise, keep it lean and small so that you are at least, where you're going. I don't want to be managing people. I never, ever want to be managing people again. And I'm not going to do that in future. I'm going to work in a way that suits me. And you have permission to work in a way that suits you too. So there's a few tips in my entrepreneurial journey. It's been a bit of a wild, crazy ride. Definitely pandemic in there, homeschooling, divorce was a messy couple of years. And I feel like I am beginning to get out of the pool of divorce and start moving forward. And so that's a really, really lovely space to be in. I'd love to hear from you. Where do you feel like you are in the business? Are you sort of ready to make that big leap? I'm definitely, I'd say this year is my consolidation year, and then next year I'm ready to make that big leap. I'd love to hear where you're at. Thanks so much for watching. You take care. Bye, bye, bye.